Of the four types of tissues, connective tissue is the most varied. We have connective tissue proper, and we have a number of other different specialized connective tissues like blood, adipose tissue, cartilage, and bone. So we'll take a look at all of those. In short, connective tissue provides structural or metabolic support for other tissues or organs. It serves as a universal packing material in the body and as a structural foundation. The packing material description and the structural foundation are very similar. Their makeup is different. The universal packing material is described as being loose connective tissue, whereas the structural foundation is dense connective tissue. And this really has to do with how the fibers and ground substance are made up within this connective tissue, and we'll talk about those. The skeleton is made up of two types of specialized connective tissue, bone and cartilage, and metabolic support would be adipose tissue and blood. Composition of connective tissue is broken down in the very same manner that we looked at epithelial tissue and that we will look at muscle tissue and nervous tissue. That is to say, comparing cells and the extracellular matrix. When we looked at epithelial tissue, it is highly cellular with very little extracellular matrix. Connective tissue is the opposite. It's mainly extracellular matrix and some cells. The main cell of most connective tissue are fibroblasts. And I say most, I should say it's the main cell of connective tissue proper. If we're looking at blood, it's going to be different types of blood cells. If we're looking at cartilage, it's going to be chondrocytes. If we are looking at adipose tissue, it will be adipocytes. But for connective tissue proper, they are fibroblasts. There are also immune cells known as macrophages, which are derived from blood cells known as monocytes. Macrophages reside in connective tissue and phagocytize material and serve as antigen-presenting cells. And we'll get into more details on those specific functions of macrophages. But phagocytosis is engulfing bacteria or foreign material, and antigen-presenting cells, which macrophages are, highlight foreign entities for destruction from other immune cells. The extracellular matrix of connective tissue is composed of ground substance and fibers. The ground substance is composed of fluid, more of a gelatinous substance composed of water, and entities known as glycosaminoglycans, such as hyaluronic acid and chondroitin. The main fibers of connective tissue are collagen. Collagen is the most ubiquitous protein in the body. There's also elastic fibers and reticular fibers that we will talk about. If we look at this slide right here, the main thing I want you to see in this slide is that there's a lot of open space. And we see some cells here. Here's a macrophage. Here's a fibroblast. These are adipocytes. So this is just a general depiction of connective tissue, but there is a lot of open space. If I was to describe this particular connective tissue, I would call this areolar connective tissue. Areolar means open. So there's a lot of open space here. So this would be loose or areolar connective tissue. And then there's going to be a bunch of collagen fibers running through this connective tissue. Making up connective tissue proper are areolar connective tissue, reticular tissue, dense regular connective tissue, and dense irregular connective tissue. Areolar tissue, otherwise known as loose connective tissue, is highly vascular. It is the packing material that I was talking about before. It underlies all epithelial tissue, surrounds blood vessels, nerves, and makes up parts of muscles. Reticular tissue forms a meshwork of fibers, creating a scaffolding in organs and tissues known as lymph nodes, spleen, the thymus gland, and bone marrow, all of which are filled with blood cells. There's dense regular connective tissue, which is a closely packed collagen fibers running in a specific direction that will help resist stress from predictable directions. And this is what we find in tendons and ligaments. It is why oftentimes people hurt their tendons and ligaments, because the stress is coming from an angle that those fibers are not oriented or suited to resist. And one thing to note with dense connective tissue, specifically the dense regular connective tissue, there's a poor blood supply to dense regular connective tissue. And that's the very reason when dense regular connective tissue gets damaged, regeneration of that tissue is very challenging. And then we have dense irregular connective tissue where there's fibers are running in different directions. It resists unpredictable stress from varied directions. And we find this in the dermis and the capsule around organs. Specialized connective tissue includes bone, cartilage, which we'll talk about in detail in the subsequent videos, blood, which we'll talk about in detail when we get to the cardiovascular system, and adipose tissue. Adipose tissue serves as an energy storage within the cells of adipose tissues known as adipocytes. They also offer thermoregulation, cushioning, and support of our body.